the ECB have been working tirelessly. It has been a monumental effort to try and get two venues ready to welcome Test match cricket back this summer. And the man who is in charge of putting this huge project together joins us now. A welcome along to the ECB, Steve Elworthy. Now, Steve, you put the World Cup together last year and it went flawlessly. You told me you were going to have a year off after that World Cup. Why?
Yeah, Woody, very good question. I'm not entirely sure. The plans, best laid plans and all that, because actually I was looking at the schedule last night and I think it was about the fourth or fifth game into the World Cup right now. So I think it was Sri Lanka against Afghanistan down in Cardiff this time last year. But it feels a long way away, that. But yeah, it's been an incredible journey, and it's an incredible set of firsts, if you will. This is just a first time for everything. So it's an incredibly challenging, but at the same time, a very rewarding project. Because I think what we are trying to achieve here is something that's never been done before. And I just, it's been an incredible experience, an incredible couple of months actually.
We'll come into the work that you've had to do to get Test match cricket nearly back on our screens, albeit without crowds. But assuming there are no more bumps in the road in the lead up to that first test against the West Indies on the 8th of July, how confident are you that will go ahead and we'll see international cricket played this summer?
Yeah, Woody, I think we're absolutely planning for it to happen, and I think we've got a final call with the West Indies tomorrow evening to take them through their arrival protocols for next Tuesday. So there's been a huge amount of work done, not only with the West Indies are the first team to arrive here, but at the same time we've got Australia, Pakistan, and Ireland coming this summer. So we have been speaking to them. We've been in weekly communication with all of them. But as in this particular case with the West Indies, more extensively, because they are that test match is about 5 weeks away. So we're very confident, and we're very comfortable with the fact that we've got a plan now that we've got in place to deliver these biosecure matches behind closed doors, as they've been termed. But in the most safe and secure way. I think it's one of the key principles that we've always been dealing with when it comes to this. And I suppose if I give you a bit of an example of what it is, and everybody, and you guys particularly, will be aware of what it takes to put a test match on in the normal world. I think from our perspective, when we've thought about how we're planning this, we effectively have unpacked an entire test match from start to finish, and we've had to put it back together again with a COVID lens on every single element of it, be that COVID, be that medical and or government guidance. And then once you've done that from a test match point of view, we then look at the external environment, so all of our different stakeholders that are involved in helping us deliver that, and we do exactly the same with that. We unpack it all and we put it all back together again with that COVID lens. So at the moment, it's I think we're in a really, really good place. We're gearing up for next Tuesday, and as I say, at the moment, the chartered flight, which is leaving the UK this weekend to go and pick up the West Indian side, is due to land on Tuesday morning next week. So, we're all systems go.
In your press release the other day, there was talk of government sign-off. Now, realistically, is it the case of the government saying you're good to go, or are you just rigidly having to stick by their guidelines?
We're just rigidly sticking to their guidelines, Woody. I think that's the case. We work very closely with the government. They've been absolutely outstanding in this entire process. We've got people who are speaking to them on a daily basis, and we develop our plans based on that guidance. That guidance then informs some of our medical overlay, and we've also got an incredibly powerful medical team that is helping develop these plans. They are also at the forefront of discussions with government, not only from our sport point of view, but representing all different sports across the sector. So they've been incredibly supportive and are very supportive of this happening. So it's been fantastic engagement with them.
Steve, I wondered where you were with COVID substitutes. Clearly, in a biosecure environment, the hope is that nobody goes down with the virus. But if somebody does, do you hope that there'll be COVID substitutes in the way that there's a concussion substitute allowed now? And I'm still not entirely clear what happens if, say, first slip goes down with the virus, given that he'll have been standing next to the wicketkeeper, and second slip and third slip.
Yeah, I think your point is about, we're with the testing protocols of getting those players into that bubble first, you would hope that wouldn't be a scenario that we would have to deal with. But clearly, it's something we are planning for, because it's not only the players. We're thinking about the circa 250 odd people that are going to be in that venue, and any one of them could possibly test positive in a period of a 5-day test match. So yes, COVID replacements are certainly something that the ICC is discussing. I have seen communication about that, and we would certainly be hoping that a COVID replacement would be allowed, specifically for test matches, not necessarily ODIs and T20s. And that replacement would have to be somebody who would be probably a like-for-like player, if you will, of that replacement. They would immediately be put into isolation. Our on-site COVID medical practitioner and Public Health England would be informed immediately, and that player would then, or that person, would then be put into isolation for a period of time based on the government guidance and the medical plan and the medical overlay. And then, as you say, the regular testing of the players and the squad and the team management would continue during the course of the match. So that's going to be an ongoing process, potentially all during a match, effectively.
Steve Nasser here. I saw an article in the Manchester Evening News the other evening saying that Northern England now is this sort of epicentre of infections. What will happen, say, you get up there for the Manchester Test match and suddenly there's a hotspot in Manchester and there's a lot of infections? Because this is a biosecure environment, is that irrelevant, or does that then put the Test match in doubt if suddenly is a huge rise in infections in that area?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the way we're planning and the way we have been planning the bubble, or let's call it the bubble, that we are developing around each of these venues is based on what we would call a worst case scenario, because clearly we are not entirely sure where we are going to be from a medical planning point of view, what the government guidance is at the time, as you talk about whether that is a particular hotspot, if there's a second wave that you've heard about. So all of those different elements that are outside of our control, the way we have structured this contingency and this bubble is that it can operate under the most extreme circumstances. So the external factors should not affect that, because if you're in the bubble and you are secure within the venue and you don't break the confines of that venue, then your game should be able to go ahead with no problems at all. So effectively, as I say, all of our planning has been based on the worst case scenario from an infection and a rate spike point of view.
Steve, how are the sequence of these games been decided?
Yeah, Wardy, something we've given a lot of thought to, because I think, and it comes down to cricket integrity, really, around a particular series. So the first point is that if you had your first two test matches at the same venue, you could end up possibly winning a series in the same conditions, in the same venue back to back. So we felt that to be able to win a series, you should win it in two separate sets of conditions. So the first test match being at the Ageas, and then the second one being at Old Trafford. So if you win the series, you win it 2-0. You've won it in two separate sets of conditions, playing conditions at the different grounds. I suppose the next question would be, if you ask from that perspective, is, well, then why did it start at the Ageas? And I think the reason for that is that the incredible facilities have. They have got a size training ground next to their main ground. So for us in the build-up from July 1st, or when the teams arrive, actually England are looking to move into the Ageas Bowl in and around the back end of June in terms of their preparation towards the Test match. And then the West Indies, when they come out of their isolation and their training from up at Old Trafford, they will both be on site at the Ageas Bowl for a period of time. And we wanted both teams to be able to practice and train and prepare for a Test match, and having two full venues like that, or grounds available to be able to train, was key. And I think the third point, really, which is probably one of the key issues, is if England do come into that secure bubble, as we say, at the back end of June, and you play two Test matches back to back in the same venue, that second Test match is due to finish sort of, depending on how many days it runs, the 20th of July. So effectively, then you could have England in that bubble, in that same environment, for over a month. So as I said, what we're working on is that we're trying to reduce that time that stakeholders or groups of people are locked down in that venue for periods of time. So that first Test match would give them around about 3 weeks in that venue before they move off to the next venue. So we have given that a bit of thought to make sure that we're covering as many of those bases as possible.
Steve, 3 West Indian players declined the invitation to come. Do you see that failure on your part for some of it's safe enough, or do you view the fact that 25 are coming as a complete triumph in these extraordinary circumstances?
Yeah, Athers, if everybody was given the right to make their own decision, and this is not the first time that's happened across cricket. It's we've seen that in other teams, and even with the England team at times, and they clearly they're entitled, absolutely entitled, to make their own decision. But yes, I suppose I look at it glass half full. I look at it incredibly positive that we have a West Indian squad of 25 players who are going to come out here and are going to compete in a Test match series against England. And I think that's fantastic for the game. As I said, it's incredibly challenging putting this all together, but at the same time, I think it's huge. It can be hugely rewarding for the game, because I think as a cricket family, we've all got to come together on this. This is not one element that's going to help us defeat this. We've all got to come together to make it work, and that's incredibly important.
Steve, we know you're an exceptionally busy man, so we really thank you for your time. Well done with all your hard work, and hopefully you'll get your trip around Europe at some point, maybe in 2021, who knows, maybe in 2022, but we appreciate your time for now.